Bro,
there's a very good habit to adopt when you're in studio. Phones on silent.
Of course.
Yangu
hata iko offline. So kuna maji pia hapo in case tupate dry mouth. So umecrash na bike saa hizi mara ngapi?
I think first of all introduction.
Okay, of course. Unajua, okay, wacha nikupatie the niche of my podcast. Umewatch Joe Rogan, si ndio?
Yeah. Straight to the point.
Sisi tunaanza conversation but nimeambia Dante hapa ndio producer yetu, nimeambia Dante kuna mtu mbigi anakuja leo by the way. First of all umekuwa president wa content. Hebu just tupatie brief. Najua ndakuwa nimebuche introduction but introduction yangu yani ni unorthodox tu tunaenda.
I think even my career is still unorthodox completely. So a couple of people call me an encyclopedia of information, things, output. I think it's based on how I've structured my life. I don't like to get boxed into anything because I have the ability to learn anything today and perfect on it and become a master of it. So that is what I believe in. I believe in once you enter a certain industry, you must have the ability to learn about it, especially if you're committed to it. If it's something you're passionate about, if it's something that you're interested in, or it's something that you can spend your time, valuable time in it, it's something that you can perfect on it. So with me, I don't like boxing myself into putting myself into boxes of being here and there. But let's say basically I still have to introduce what I do so that if there's any opportunity, it doesn't cross the table. So I have a couple of things that I do. Majorly, I'm a brand consultant. So I've been brand consulting, and let's say I started as a graphic designer. I've almost, I can say 10 years ago. And now shifted into brand consulting because it's a wider variety of output in terms of that creative industry. Because as a graphic designer, you can only do a couple of items. You can only be boxed to use the machine and design. But as a brand consultant, now the playing ground is widens completely now, from graphics to web to art direction to consulting about image and everything. So I think this also drove me into a different perspective. Now I have to go back to school again to learn more about how can I best become a communicator. Because now if brand consulting is what I do, then it's about communicating the product or communicating what the client wants to understand. And now that took me into now a student of PR in University of Nairobi. So still I'm a student.
Mashallah. Kwanza ile day, unakumbuka the first day ulikam kijani. Ilikuwa very impromptu, hata sikuwa mimi anaitwa nani? Keremi alikuwa ameniambia Chris.
Yeah, my bro.
Curtis anasema, "Yo mimi nakam." Nikasema fit haina shida weka. Not that uli intrude ama anything, mimi niko na kwanga tu sawa. Ukakam tukadishi, in the process tu ukaanza tu kuongea, and I was like, dude, and you remember mimi nilikuwa na nyamaza tunakusikia. And I was like, geez, huyu jamaa akona information, and it's not really information mimi personally I would go out of my way. Na nikakwambia that was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
nikakwambia ulikuwa umeona ulikuwa umeona paper nilikuwa nimeandika, nimechora logo ya inaitwaje the podcast.
Yeah.
Nikakwambia bro, I need you on my podcast. Ukaniambia hata nimeona hiyo notebook yako.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah fam, Sunday lazima ukam bro, because vitu zingine tu ulikuwa unasema, and I was like, god damn bro, mbona sifikiria, I've never gone out of my way kutafuta such informations. Now me personally bro, if there's anything ama trade flani I think that I'm good at is identifying people who are better than me. Na kucheza role, nikiona wewe you're better than me nakwambia okay fine, you take the lead. Unaget mimi ndakatu hapa nyuma yako na niangalie
and push it.
Exactly. So bro, the first day tulianza tu jam after jam. Keremi sidhani hata kali kwa na notice hizi vitu. Mimi nilikuwa naosha vyombo na kuangalia. Now I'm like, wewe ulikuwa tu zako tu naongea uko pale tuko MacBook, you are just talking. I was like, bro, I was listening to every fucking word, man.
Yeah, I think that still counts to what I'd communicated. Nikasema mimi ni encyclopedia information. Any habit, I think I started cropping it up like almost the same time that I started becoming a bit resourceful. Na nilikuwa najiambia every day, there's that rule that I have set in my life, every day you must learn something new. every day. And if you feel that you're in a room that you're not occupying, or you're not internalizing anything new, get out of that room immediately. Step out, learn something new. Make sure, even if it's a single word that you have understood, there's a new one that I've learned today. So it's a rule that I set very early in my life, and that I think in my early 20s up, and that has really now, it's like a structure of capacity building myself. At that point, sikuwa na ile do ya kuingia shule, sikuwa na ile do ati ya kusema ati naweza enda hapa nipate hii course. Technology was not really so developed. Google ilikuwa, but you have to search for it. So nikasema that wouldn't be an excuse. Ignorance is not an excuse. That is one thing naweza sema, never let ignorance be an excuse. Hiyo ndio kitu moja tunajipatanga kama sisi binadamu, ama as young people right now, not even having the ability to grab an opportunity on the table because of ignorance, because something is too obvious, but because maybe it just crossed your eyes, or you didn't take the time to understand it, then you cannot convert it into an opportunity. So for me, that is, hiyo ndio ile kitu imekuwa ikinigroisha, na napatanga tu and also the company that I put around, na make sure penye na interact with, any space that I interact with, it has to be productive. It has to convert something to me, either financial, either intellectual, or even social at some point, because social is what now creates your network. So with me, nimekuwa, it's sort of a habit that you have to create moving forward.
Discipline pia ina play a part.
Yeah, now discipline is now the other items that has to weave you have to weave in as a person, apart from now handling all, kwa sababu ukikosa that role of discipline. There's a friend of mine called Anthony Mwelu, na hiyo ndio tunashindanga tukijiambia kila siku, tunasema sometimes talent is not everything. Sometimes talent is very, very different from business, and most of the things that makes a talent a bit wavy or shaky is about discipline. And you find the people who have talent and they have discipline, they can win. But most of the areas that you see the talent is always nurtured, it lacks a lot of discipline. So with me, nilikuwa najua niko na hiyo talent of being a creative, but how do I nurture it into something? How do I make sure that when I sit on a table, that this has to convert into something? As you said, discipline has to be part of one part of it, apart from hiyo bidii ya kujifunza over and over.
Alafu on a personal hii I guess ni shida yangu tu. I'm trying to land here. Ni vile tu najaribu vile ya kuistructure ni kupackage. The thing is I've always admired, nimekuwa within that circle of creatives, and one thing mi wauliza is show me your creative process. Nataka tu kuangalia. Juzi Fresh alikuwa hapa, niko nafanya podcast na
he's a very good friend of mine.
Exactly. Hata tulikuwa tunaongea juu yako. There was a time, the first time we met, akaniambia yo Sanday, nikamwambia jamaa fulani yako na bike. I was like yeah, anakujua. So the thing is, nikamuuliza tu what's your creative process like, na kila mtu alikuwa na their own way. There was even a time nilikuwa nakaa chini with my friend who's a rapper, nakaa tunamwangalia akiandika. I'm trying to pay attention to something. However much kila creative anakuanga na their own way of getting into the groove ama kuingia kwa zone. One thing is like almost kila mtu anamkanga around that morning hours. There's something with creatives and morning hours that inanifascinate sana, because personally mimi naweza jita creative as well.
Yeah, you're a creative.
Not only nimetengeneza content, not only nimescript content, nimetengeneza even products. You remember the front sit up I was telling you?
Yeah.
So the best moment, yani mimi naona even the best time ya kuconnect na wasee na kwanga hiyo 4 to 5 am. So there's something mysterious about it. Sijui kama maybe unaweza kukuwa umefigure out.
For me, I think I can call it a bit different. I think all creatives have their own structure, or because I've worked with so many of them, and I can't say this one. You can say this is a template of how to move around. Maybe if I can speak for myself, maybe someone else, I've seen them working differently, because some of them work completely differently, but based also on even the gender, based on even how people their biological cycle, in terms of maybe how they sleep, how they relate to light also, because some people giza ikiingia ni hivyo yasha switch off. So for me, maybe I speak for myself because mine it's a bit different, but for me my creative process is very very it's very very, let's say, it's wild. Mine, I can either tap from inspiration. That is, I like traveling so much. I like meeting people. I like absorbing images. I like even clouds. I can just look at clouds and it draws a figure in my head. That's why I have to work with my laptop throughout. Because if something hits my head, I have to convert it into, I have to create it. I have a different format called scavenging. I'm a scavenger. So sometimes I can just decide to wildly just now use Google. I just check from Behance, check from everywhere, check from, and then now inspiration start building up. From this item to this item to this item, then you build one sort of a piece. In terms of how my layout of expressions look like, I think not really far. Simbali kutoka how other people work, but there's those night hours. Me, every time I sleep, I think even my partner has a very very big problem with me because I come to bed about 4 a.m. in the morning. Every night, 4 a.m. in the morning is when I sign off. And sometimes I can sign off at 6.
So wewe ni night person.
Mimi ni usiku. Ikifika saa 6, no calls, no nothing. I just hit now. My creative process, creation starts from those dark hours. Because now, during the day, for me, it's a bit hectic because of how I've structured my engagements and my company and my consultancy. Is that during the afternoon, I try give as much time possible to the clients. That's when they lay out their briefs. That's when they try to communicate what they need to be done, small changes, put this letter here, remove here. I think we can change this color. But at night is when I create. If I want to create completely, I just need silence and less distractions, especially from calls, from friends, from anything. That's my I can call it SOPs, standard operating procedures in terms of my creative structure.
Jeez, mimi nakwambia bro, the moment niko na idea zangu zinakuanga ni kama mawaya zimeshikanishwa, zimetanguliwa. So by the time nipate that anchor that nikae chini na nizilainishe moja moja, inakuanga very difficult for me. Na saa zingine I lose myself by becoming too optimistic. Unaget? Like ndio nimepata the idea sounds great ikikuwa in its basic simple form.
Yeah.
And then the fact that siwezi ifanya simpler than that, ideas zingine zinaanza kukam, then zinaanza kuoverlap, zinaanza kuentangle, and then I start now na drift from the original plan up until nimerealize nimewaste time and nimekuwa complicated, alafu tena narudi square one. Hiyo kitu, it's like, in fact even wase wengi wameniambia, Nasir, ideas zako ni wild pia, but just jaribu kuiscale down on a way that inaweza kuwa at least affordable.
Yeah.
You understand? Because the first time I created your app, nilipatiwa developer aliniandikia tu 100 million and I'm like, bro, umeniongelesha.
Reject bill.
That's a good one. That's a good one. The thing is, I didn't, major time, I was new to product development. In fact, vile umesema unachukuanga a skill, same way. Me bro, to be honest, kuna hii app inaitwa Allison. It's a place where mtu anaendanga kutafuta inaitwaje, like courses and diplomas and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
You've seen it?
There's a time that I think they had partnered also with some government institution at some point.
Oh,
I think it was nice. Thrown off. They tried to introduce online courses to students, but I don't know how that thing went.
To be honest, the guy who made me nikam na Allison in my POV was jama flani TikTok anaitwa Elvis. Elvis something.
Kent.
Elvis inakuanga Elvis W ama Elvis W. Oh, okay. Ilikuwa Elvis W. Unaget? So wo jamaa, he kind of anapatianga wase educational tips and stuff. So akakuja akasema, by the way, you guys, he talks about skill. Like vijana wanafaa kuwa skills. So even the basic the know-how of crypto and how I developed my project kwa blockchain, ilikuwa imetoka kwa Allison. Like nilienda nikafanya a whole course. Unaget, na nikashikanisha the blockchain mpaka saizi I could easily tell hii story ya Worldcoin ilikuwa imekujia like on 2022 way before anyone knew about it. Na hiyo time watu wako na joyo airdrop, it was like over 100k. Ni vile tu wa Kenya wamemass nini, kuna mtu amekuleo do vifiti. You see? So back to what I was saying is hiyo story ya kwenda down the rabbit hole ndio nataka kujua. Yes, I want to like, ukiniuliza 8 months ago I knew nothing about production. Nilikuwa najua tu how ni saizi I can produce, naweza edit na naweza tengeneza kila kitu by myself, you see. So it was the fundamental basics of what you're dealing with. Kama you're going to open a production house, at least jua, because to be honest I cannot tell my team some like out of scope project, I mean out of scope goal that hawezi fika. Like I tell them like things that I can do. Naambia kama hii edit inafaa kwa hivi tayari mimi najua that is simple. You understand? So actually imenisaidia very much, because the thing is pia mimi sitakangi kufeel hii feeling ya kugongwa. So unajua hiyo feeling like by the stake naona ni kama umse like I don't know, inakuanga tu by the let me just go and do my own research. Nikibuy microphone I was
like look a fool in the market.
Thank you. That's bro, everything ikamata kwa the things that I usually go out of my way and nafanya studies, reviews, na angalia what the comments of people wanasema. Like I am just never satisfied with surface level information. You see?
I think it's the same thing was happening today. I'm shopping for monitors, so I was just busy here trying to shop for monitors. So I was like, nikiingia tao nitagongwa, because everybody is after business. So what do? I have ChatGPT. I just put the model number and then compare to the next model, and just let technology work for you. It makes sure that at least now I can have a comparison to understand. Thank you. To understand what suits application of what I'm looking for. So there's something that you have mentioned, and maybe I'll take you back kidogo, and that is to do with how you said how you overlap ideas and days. I think it's a blessing to have a creative mind that can create, that can add value to everything, keep on adding value, but there's still a danger to it. And that danger is something called paralysis analysis. And that is a process that I've always find myself, especially in my early days of design work. I find myself in a paralysis. Even right now, I'm still fighting it, but it's not as heavy as, at least right now, I know how to manage it. Because you don't feel anything is good enough to implement. Because every good idea comes after to improve. But you forget that you need first to implement, then improve while it's on ground. For creatives, that really happens. I've noted that with creatives who come from talent, and that makes you stick as talent rather than become a business. So a lot of talent are trying to skip to cross from being a talent to a business, to create a whole production team, to create a whole structure, but you cannot cross because of that part of paralysis analysis. Because you are a creator, you tend to forget that your brain creates over and over and over and over. So with that, there's always a cure to inject through it, and that is creating a team. So that's why it's very dangerous for one person to do everything. Sometimes, especially when you become that person who creates a lot, you want to become the CEO, you want to become the person who edits you, because you don't feel everything is executed the way you want. That was
me. Wallahi, that was me. 2020 nikianzisha hiyo project. Nilikuwa nasimamia graphics. I wanted to know the details of the things, because I wanted to design hii platform like on international standards, and I felt like no one was understanding me. Unaget? Na nakuanga I'm very obsessive about the details.
You called me like 3 times.
Huh?
You called me like 3 times, reminding me, I'm putting up this platform. I'm just like, these guys are suffering from paralysis analysis.
The thing is, nile design, like, and this is something that nimejua says, apparently the more every year there's a whole change mtu anaweza kakua nayo without them knowing. The more nimejua tu kutrust watu in my team, nikijua this is the direction. Kapish, sawa kapish, tumeelewana, kila mtu anaenda hapo. Sasa kutoka hapo everything is easy. Like saizi nilikuwa when we set up this whole studio, nilikuwa na idea of how we are going to produce. We are going to produce for creators who are upcoming, wenye studio time ni expensive for them. And we are going to like make this production equal cheap. Unaget wa access all this high facility but equal very very cheap for them. You see, so the moment tushatengeneza hiyo model, the other thing was, do we get producers? Okay, fine, how say wanafaa kuline na our model ama ile style sisi tunataka. Once that is done, mimi kazi yangu sasa ni kwenda to sort the business side. And at best mi nifanya content yangu. Mi the moment ni saizi nikimaliza kufanya content yangu, I even don't even look back. Vile inaeditiwa, kuna dema anaitwa Shiro, yeye ndo ana editingi kila kitu. There's Dante hapa mwenye anatuproduce yanga everything na bado anaweza edit, so anapiganga back to back. And now there's the studio manager mwenye anaitwa Marian na bado kuna Hari, again the producer. You see, so everything iliwekwa in a setting that hii ecosystem inaweza work. So your story, I guess the 3 years kumekuwa na a huge growth. I have to pat my chest for that. June nimejua kudelegate. It's a process yani kwa mimi. To be honest, it's a process. You get, na bado I'm still in the process. The good thing is najua niko na upungufu yangu. And I am always honest about the way I feel. The way I even reason, mi ujaribu kuonesha wase. This is how I reason. Nakuanga na obsession na vitu kadhaa. You see, especially when it comes to the hierarchy, something small like unajua vile ma studios yuko toxic. Something small, hata ile design ya if someone is having a bad day, just enter home. Unaget, nakuanga that type, enter home to rest, tutafanya tu shughuli yako hapa. The thing is, stuck you come na hiyo pressure yote uko nayo. And then if I cap kitu, you understand, it might seem like kitu kidogo, but to be honest, it goes a very very long way. So hiyo story ya kudelegate ni kitu imekuwa my biggest achievement so far. Even if imechukua like 3 years, but the thing is I had to understand it first before me kudelegate. Even there's a friend of mine anaitwa Ayub, na kuconnect kwake, anataka kwanza kuleta hizi vitu za the gear ya mabikes na kila kitu. I told him, bro, start this operation as a one-man team. Ile budget ako nayo, trust me, it's dope ya kuanzisha like a whole unit ni ya kuchukua ma stalls na nini. He has that budget, but I was like, no, just for starters, 8 months pilot. Rent a 2 bedroom, weka store hiyo moja, weka store, don't even anza tu kuuza online build that community. You have to make it like iko ya one person army kwanza,
scalability.
Exactly. Pia sasa ukiscale juu itakuwa fiti. And the other thing nataka kuambia ni ile budget hii studio haiko inafaa kwa hivi, ilikuwa inafaa kwa way higher, tumekatiwa by half. Unaget, and thank God it happened because tungeingia na mess vile bro, as I told you those exotic thoughts. Tulikuwa tuna plan kuchukua like a property on its own compound. Rent ilikuwa like over 100k. Unaget, so I came to know soundproof even one room. Something close to 70-80 G's, just one room. So in the process I was like, bro, hii kitu imekuwa blessing in disguise. Set story and thank God your funding ilikatwa by half. Unaget, imekuwa like a blessing in disguise because sasa at least the know-how of the scalability, it's easier to fathom size. Unaona? So niyo story tu ya overlapping ideas zingine na kambada ujosoti, kuna ingine tu imekuchapa unasema fuck, I am so smart, kumbe you're just mixing yourself up.
Of me, one thing I told myself, and I always preach myself, is never be afraid of starting small. That is one thing that is never preached within sisi kama millennials and Gen Zs. We're not told how starting small can really, really teach you a lot. Everybody's preached the story of a big store, a big brand outside there that is really, really making sales. But if you come down to their story, they'll tell you nobody started that big. And most of the brands that kick off at that, especially beyond, let's say 50,000 USD kwenda mbele, anything that bigger, like you're supposed to start small but you start at that rate, most of them don't last more than 3 years, unfortunately, because you have already hit the ceiling and you don't know what to go past there. But once you start small, you learn so many things at the lower segment that you can tweak and also diverse your business to a point that, but the moment you're reaching at the 50,000 USD investment, you understand how scalability looks like. You understand that there's a ceiling to this industry that I can reach and maybe diversify my capital to something different. Starting small is very important. The other thing I think I'll need to highlight is about as creatives. As creatives, we still have that problem because we access so much information on digital platforms, and that tends to also inatuchanganyisha kidogo. Unapata if someone wants to has an idea, they think how best that idea can really shine, has to be so shiny to everyone, to a point that at the moment I'm just kicking it off, I must have a launch party, I must have, like the way Diana and Bahatis did their thing. But you forget, to Diana and Bahati, they came from a very, very, very humble beginning first, before the brand reached to access the deputy president.
Wallahi, bro, that's me, bro. Wallahi bilai, that's me.
Yeah, now you want to call Sanday, call Nani, oh, bring who, just to launch your product. But you forget that your product needs to be launched at the grassroots level first.
You're right.
Because once it grows with an audience, the audience supports it. Especially those audience, you have to create diehard fans who have to support the business, who are return clients. And if you don't get that support system, now you can know how to tweak your product into something now that can crop up now that audience that you're looking for. But this generation that you're in, I think a lot is not preached in terms of how to cultivate from an incubation stage to something that will kick off. There's another thing that maybe I'll put some line of thought to it. Maybe it's you to tell me. So I have a scenario here, and this I still have to put it to those people who have, there's a danger in consuming a lot of information. Consuming a lot of information can make you not prosper in life. Sana. There's a very big danger, and not knowing how to control that information. Most of my let's say shortcomings is me having a lot of information in my head. Because sometimes an opportunity can come, sometimes an idea can come, and you throw it out because of what previous information you knew or what you saw, and now you don't want to put risk on whatever is on the table. I'll give us a very good scenario. Let's say this, I'll have to take it into the education system that you have and also the other industry. Let's say I'll give a very good scenario. There's someone who tulikuwa na class 3. When we crossed to class 4, class 4 during our age was like a crossover. You can cross over from nursery to class 1, then class 3, you cross over to class 4 now. That's another crossover. Then class 8, you cross over to, like there was a gap when you wanted to, when it comes to education at that given point. So a lot of dropouts used to happen at class 3 because it was deemed that class 4, because now you're taking more subjects, it's a bit harder. So we used to get a lot of kids, because I've gone to about 14 schools.
Jeez, bro. Hawezi tu pitisha tu hivyo ati you've gone to enough.
And it's not expansion. And expel or suspend. No, we just used to
travel a
lot. Yeah. So there's a certain school that I was in that someone just dropped out from class 4. Immediately I'll talk about class 4. There's this habit that this type of hustle that they used to crop up in the estate. And they used to wait for lorries that are getting into the estate, and they offload the sand. Lori mchanga ikiingia estate, kuna wale watu nikaa vile mathri naingianga esto, then kuna kamagera wanaingia wale waku jaza gari itoke, then ikitoka na watu. So this person used to offload sand. But now hiyo lori ikienda kutoka, si wana offload, kuna venye wanafagianga hiyo mchanga inabakia about a whole wheelbarrow or ama ndoo kadhaa.
No way.
So wanafagia by the time inafika ile spot yao penye wanangojaga hizo lori zikiingia, they have already collected something like a wheelbarrow or even some 2 buckets. They just ambia mtu lori, simamisha lori tuangushe.
Jeez,
wanarusha hapo chini. So maybe within a couple of times this guy has a heap of sand. This sand, there are guys who don't need a whole lorry. So they do just minor repairs in the houses. They come and buy wheelbarrows from these guys. This guy started there. By the time nimeenda class 4, class 5, class 6, class 7, class 8, this guy has already bought a pickup.
God damn.
Now he's doing transporting because lori ya mawe ikiingia alikuwa anaangusha mawe kama tatu. In 4 years, this guy doing that business, how much knowledge and information does he have about that business?
Too much.
So he has like a small pickup. Zile pickup mzee, zile then salvage lakini anachukua anaitengeneza, but now he can supply. You see this son of his now to the estate. By the time Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4. How many years?
4 years.
4 years.
Forbes magazine, bro.
How much is this guy? This guy is already getting his 2 small canters.
Na tayari ashaoa.
Na ashaoa. In fact, akona watoto kama 3.
Jeez.
Mimi niko hapo. Niko Form 4. Niko nafurahia. Ishafika this 2 years in unonanga as young people we spend like about 2 or 1 year outside before you join campus or anything. Before now, I decided now to maybe think to do design work. This guy was already another 4 years, 2 years extra deep. By the time I'm completing my short course on design work, that's another 2 years. That's like 15 to 16 months. This guy is another 4 years deep. This guy has about, I don't know how many lorries. Because the moment he got these small canters, he's already hardened so much on the ground. Everybody knows his name for the past more than 8 years to handle sand. By the time nishaanza now I'm market ready, nimeanza huko kukimbizana na kina nani, status wapi, nini kidogo. The guy is the one who is applying nini? Ithika Road na mchanga, kokoto, nini? These highways and they're being created. Because now he can access even money from the bank kuchukua Tata.
Damn.
By the time I'm 4 years deep, now as Nensha Cement as a now designer, people at this know me as a designer, I'm doing events, I'm doing blah, 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 blah. This guy has excavators because he has been visiting sites and he sees their needs. They need excavators. Because money is flowing, bank can leverage some loans to him.
Kitu nimeget kutoka hiyo yote ni how come, check this out, yeah? Huyu jamaa alikuwa na financial literacy kutoka class 3-4 wenyewe wewe ulikuwa unaendelea. So tuseme kutoka class 3-4 all the way mpaka class 8 wewe hauko unajua anything about money. Wachana hata na the business side of it, just money, financial literacy, you know nothing about. Haya, no problem. Tayari ako na 4 years advanced in financial knowledge. The guy is illiterate, anatamia as illiterate right now, right? Haya, 4 years of high school. Wewe unaendelea tu kijua chemistry na nini, but financial literacy bado haiko. There's a point bro, lichizia do. Sema ukweli. So yeye huyu jamaa alikuwa na hiyo experience at one point, but at least probably it lasted like 1 or 2 years because ina happening kila mtu like akipata do their first time they have to bust it kwanza. Madem nini, sherehe, show people that you're that guy. You see? But this guy financial literacy yake ili come through experience. Nothing to do with school, nothing to do with and also you have to think of the discipline. Ile unaniambia ati anafagia hiyo track every day. Those are like some small grains anazichanga tu. Alafu sasa atatafuta a metric of how to sell sand. God damn it, bro.
By the time I'm market ready, I cannot see him in life. So that should teach you one thing.
Yo, sijui kama hiyo hata ifai kuitwa head start, bro.
It's not to do with head start.
Jeez.
Sometimes we overthink it. We overthink the concept and the idea that we know. Maybe it has been in front of you all that time, but you just overthink it. You think that you need a degree. You don't need all this.
Or maybe it could be because nile design too hatuko patient.
It's not even about being patient. It's something that has been sold to you over time and over years, and you are locked in a system. For him, he was not locked in a system. Because you cannot tell me at that given point that he left school, he could access loans. No. At that given point, he looked like a fool, the most biggest fool, because he was the best example of what you should not be. You see? Sisi wengine, we are locked in a system because he didn't have a vision. For him, he had a vision. He already bought a vision and he already knew where he's moving. I cannot say I'm really, really badly off, but I really wish I was him. I really wish I was him. I really wish I was him. And that really taught me a lot, because at some point I had to sit down with myself and tell myself, Sam is a very good example of what I should be thinking about. And that created a very big change in me when I started. Ile time nilianza kufikiria sasa, now I'm wasting time. Because I started thinking, am I overthinking things? Am I really moving the right direction? Do I know really what I want? Am I just want a degree so that I can just now say I've completed school, now I'm looking for work? No. Since then, anything on the table, I move. Anything on the table, I move. If I don't move, I'll call you tomorrow. Nikwambie ni aje? Kuna kitu nimeona hapa, can you do it? Because everything is a lot in this world. The other thing I learned is that mwenye anapata pesa wa kwanza ako na advantage. I cannot say he's the luckiest, but they have an advantage. The first to touch the money has an advantage. So what do I have to do? If I'm practicing to do something, I must have an end goal to it. And the end goal to it has to be attached to financial value at some point. So if something does not have a financial value, especially if it requires me to be productive around it, then I have to withdraw my efforts to it. Because I'll end up wasting my time. I'll end up doing so much. And then at the end of the day, resources are required everywhere. Where you are sitting right now, it's resources. So how am I going to recoup to get that money back? How am I going to get my time back? So since then, I know how to segment my time. I know how to commit whatever I need to do. I know even if I have a conversation with someone and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds, 10 minutes itaisha kama sijajua where to place you in my life.
Alafu kwa hiyo story ya watu kutokuwa na like a direction, do you also think the society plays a part in this sense?
Yeah.
Not even the society, let's just say close circles, in the sense that of course there are close relatives who kuna wale ma black sheep, you get, when wanapatiwa pressure like hey, look at what your cousins are doing, look at what X is doing.
Yeah.
So kuna venye we mwenyewe si ati hauna plan, uko na plan, but you're trying to validate yourself to these people first. Una get?
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm also talking on a personal basis, I was that type of person in a way that nataka kuonesha yo niaje, this is what I want to do, but of which again ikisema the more the years ikiendelea, the more I guess with age, depending on the people you hang out with, ama depending on the sources you have access to, inakuchange differently. Like personally, Karim atakwambia mi upenda kukaa solo. Mi ni mtu wa watu, but napenda kukaa solo most of the time. Hii time niki access philosophical content. I like understanding human beings on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And one of those deeper levels, ama how I accomplish that, is through conversations. Unaget? Kuna time neza ongea na mtu aniambia story ya medicine. That day ndenda kutafuta, as in, like, atakuwa tu ametrigger tu akili yangu, and nikianza kuji-expose kwa that kind of circle, there's a way I just start thinking differently. Go on.
Yeah, that's really true. I think I'm in the same line as what you're saying. There's a conversation on my way when I was coming. I met someone. I had the same conversation with them. I tell them I rarely meet people. And so many people know me, but I rarely meet people because I came to understand that people around you can dictate the energy that you tap, can really even detect the way you move, can even detect how your life trajectory will move. Because if I choose to hang out with two people who just party throughout, I end up in the cell at some point. I'll end up kugongesha gari at some point, because it comes with that circle and even cycle itself. When I meet creatives, because I know that's another question that you'll still throw to me. One thing that helps me give direction to creatives in a positive way is to first meet them, sit down with them, and understand them completely. I've seen people who just need to manage creatives. They just come because they see the value and the money and everything, and maybe the fame that is within that moment. Maybe Steve Simple in anavuma saizi. They just to hist and move. But for me, I don't think that's my trajectory when it comes to interacting with creatives. Not even managing, but even interacting with creatives. If I need to sit down and either have a consultancy with you to see the direction that you need to move as a creative, I have to understand where you're coming from. And most of the creatives, I usually go deeper to the type of friends they have, even close. I'll even tell them, right, who are your close 5 friends? I'll even start even seeing how do you spend your time? How do you even, are you a religious person? How do you relate even with, there's a certain side of yourself that you have to give to me so that I can understand how best can I detangle it for you. So I've seen so many people, as you have said, I've seen so many people, especially from that perspective, who cannot pass a certain ceiling because of the audience they have around them. Not the people they're not the audience in terms of what they are releasing the content to, but the people who they spend so much time with. You get that the growth of this creative cannot cross a certain milestone because of unajua hao ndio watu tunashinanga na wao, but that's not how it's supposed to be completely. You're supposed to make sure that the next people who you have next to you, they have to be aligned with whatever you need to create. From there, now I have to now ask you now the hard question: what's your goal? What's your goal? Like, what's your end goal in all this that you're doing? Some of them will give me very crazy ideas. Some of them will give me very some of them it will be tethered to money, which is not good. One thing with money, and that is what I'll still mention, especially with the creatives, so that it's a message to them. One thing with money, with me, if we sit down and I ask you the problem and you start telling me money is the problem, I switch off. I usually call money solution. Money is always the solution to whatever you want to do. Money is a solution. Money is not the problem. So what's the problem? If you know how to lay down your problem, how do you, okay, this is the challenge, this, and make it sure that it's tethered to a process that has a challenge, and is what, and then you come to a recommendation, maybe a solution to see how best you can, like you create a map on how you can overcome it. But the moment you just say, mimi tu nataka tu 1 million, mimi tu hata ukinipatia 50k leo naanza, that's a very very bad way of approaching any solution or to get anywhere. I don't know whether you have a question around that.
Yes, I do. And of course ukikuwa kwa hii line of creatives ama ukiwa kwa hii industry, utasikia story mingi ya watu wengi wame endorsements zao zimekansoliwa just because of hizo vitu. Watu hawaelewangi that unachiki vile umesema, how you look at the religion, how you look at someone's traits, your friends and everything. Brands also si wanaangalianga hizi vitu, like it breaks down to your competence, what's it called?
Very true.
Competence level.
Yeah.
You see, ile design tu fulani wanaona huyu jamaa tumemkatia a deal, but now he's showing up broke.
Yeah.
You get, as in kuna little telltale signs. Kwa hiyo mse mwenye haujui hizi vitu, you might say this is petty, but nah, it's not petty, it's just basic psychology. Ni mtu tu ako from an investment point of view akisema this is not a good investment, wacha tu ni cut off.
Yeah. I think also the other part, I think this is
before endele bro, just weka mic kwa katikati. There we go.
Sorry.
Yeah, project katikati. So, thank you.
I think the other part is that
hapo am I good now? Oh, okay. So niweke hivi mbali. Okay, thank you sir.
So I think there's a conversation I had with someone, and it's called VJ Space. So Space at some point, there's a time he was giving us some talk, like about 5 years ago, and he was highlighting how creatives go wrong especially the client direction. You get creatives, of course we like the money, we like the hist, naitangwa hist, we like the hist. Anyway, there's quick money and it's pesa mzuri, we'll always put our our noses and our hands there. But the moment you do a hist and now tomorrow you need to increase the hist, so many people get stuck at that point because you don't know how to tell the client, now I need more money because XYZ. But I think Space is the one who taught me about how to translate value. And how do you translate value? You don't come first by asking money first. The first thing you have to show the client, this is the value that I'm adding to your. To some extent, even you have to bear the cost of the value so that you can make a point to the client. Most of the times I've met creatives is that we complain so much about how clients are not sincere with their payments. They're making so much money, but it's based on the value that they are seeing from you. Some of them don't even know how to translate the value of what you're giving them. It's up to you even to show this is what the market rate looks like. This is how, like, we don't go the extra mile of understanding what the market, how should the market look like. That's why nowadays, or even not nowadays, since the digital era came in, it's very hard for clients to quantify how to pay a service or how to reimburse a service in terms of digital value. I think that's a point that it's not really well taught, because even if you ask me today, only a few people in my industry know how to charge, how to create a rate card around it. Only a few people in the production industry, videography, in the studios, know how to create a very good rate card. And that has really been confusing let's say the corporate industry, or maybe the industry that has the money to spend on us. So I think it's still a green area, especially because it's a third world country. I cannot be in a rush to say that there's someone who knows it all, but we cannot compare to the developed country, because then they have a way of how they cultivate their value. Na pia dola pia kuna venye dola wezi cheza nayo. But with us here, I think there's a way that we are really not defined completely. So that has really stifled a lot of creatives in terms of their growth, in terms of how they think, in terms of how their content structure even appeals to the audiences, because sometimes you have to find your niche. Because things that is one is like there's a lot of shift in that industry, but I can say we are still green. Yeah, there's something you want to ask.
Yeah, back kwa hiyo story ya rate card, sijui kana kuset up ama na kuwekea a layup. Either way tutajua tu pali conversation inaenda. When you talked about a rate card and wewe uko na background ya branding, and branding technically ni kama low key you're a psychologist, because you're playing with the psyche of people.
Yeah.
You see? Are you the one who designed hili rate card ya Crazy Kena?
Is it public?
No, as in tunaongea tu, as in if by the kama utaki kudiscuss hiyo
public, but I think that I'll leave it to the discretion of him and also the company, because it shifts. Shifts. Yeah, it shifts. For him, I've worked with him, and the rate card comes from a team. It doesn't come only from one person. We have to, and also it's not really I cannot say it's standard. It's not really standardized in a way, because whatever you need for this studio is different from whatever I need from my shop, my fish business. You see? So you have to first analyze what the client requires. You have to first analyze also what is required, and also timelines, and also how the engagement looks like. Not only for him, but for many creatives that I have rate cards for. So the rate card thing is a bit shifty depending on the industry. But also you have to be very conservative around it, because sometimes you might overquote because your value has not achieved the maturity to quote certain amounts. Maybe because you saw a very big telco company asking for 20 second maybe content, and you're just like, these guys are going to milk me. Okay, it's good. You have to request for something, but you have to understand first. Understanding means that you have to work with the client word by word to see, so that you can even not let your the creative get you as a creative get shortchanged, because sometimes you can give the client more value, and at the end of the day, when you look at your end of the deal, it's not reflecting. but it's you who agreed to it. And maybe the people who are on the table did not take time enough, or they're not experienced enough to understand how rate card works.
So in simple, wacha niangalie kama naweza break down. When it comes to a rate card, tuangalie production plays a part. The production you're going to use, you know? You personally as a brand.
No, just start with taxes.
Start with taxes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna joke you. Let's start with taxes. Tuanze na taxes.
Yeah.
After number 2 tuweke production. Number 3 tunaweza weka brand, like you as a brand, the identity and everything, right? And 4 maybe the social media presence and where this thing is going to go. Zaidi hapo kuna ingine nafaa kujua?
Not really. I think there are things, especially you have to understand, especially as a creator. There's something called brand value. Brand value by default, it sets a rate card at a place that it cannot fall below a certain rate by default. Because right now, if you want to, let's use Churchill as an example. If you want to contact Churchill today, there's a way that there's a rate that Churchill cannot go below because of the brand value itself, without any additions of production. Just by contacting him and saying that I need to engage you, and there's a rate that he cannot go below. Now everybody, every creative must have that. You must understand also the brand growth, because at the same time, this is usually created by a couple of factors. Let's say by the numbers, also the traction that you create, especially with your output, even with the experience of your experience, because you are experienced by this. I say there are people who can release content in 3 weeks. There are people who can release content in a single day, but the quality is still top notch. So that is what creates a brand value. How it constantly. From there, now you can now add the extra additional items. Like now you have extra cost, maybe in extra hiring extra crew, extra equipments. We have taxes on top. You have even profits. You have to account for profits, and not only profits that you're finding from not cheap profits, but profits that make sense to the company. I'm speaking as a company because I'll prefer many creatives to convert their engagements from being single sourced into a company, because especially if you want to attract the big corporates or the big brands outside here, going as an individual doesn't have enough weight. As an individual, even you bargaining for your space on the table, it's a bit cheap. But when you move as a company, there's some respect that it's accorded to, because now you're communicating in a different level. Now this is a company communicating to a company, not a company communicating to a single person. There's another thing that comes with an advantage of having a company, and that is engaging, especially government institutions. They still need your services. These people still need to communicate. Right now, the challenges government is having is they have a very big gap of communicating to the young people. How do they communicate to the young people? They require creatives and content creators. They require people who can digest their information to this generation that needs that information. Government does not get into business with individuals, unfortunately. That's one thing creators should have to understand. Government does not get into conversation with individuals. Yeah. That's why government will always push. Kama let's say watu wamechomekewa nyumba hapa, government will always push, kujeni muungane pamoja, undeni CBO.
Okay, I've noticed it, but I've never known the science behind it.
Sini ni squatters, undeni chama yenyu ya squatters, register it, and then we can recognize you as a squatter settlement.
Jeez.
Unanipata? It never tries to engage. It tries as much as possible to avoid single or person interaction. So it will force you to create an NGO, it will force you to create a company, it will force you to create a CBO, it will force you to come with a society so that it can recognize you as a body, but not as an individual. That's one thing a lot of people don't know. That's why even as creators, we are being advised as creatives to be recognized by government, to benefit from government resources. Come up with an association, create an association so that you can benefit from whatever talent, not put talent, I'll put it in a different, whatever government wants to inject into in your industry. But because of the way we are everywhere, government cannot find a way to communicate to us. For musicians, at least they are lucky, there's MCSK, government can communicate to them directly to the musicians. Maybe it can use there's now PavRisk because MCSK is gone. It can use a way to communicate to them. That's why people come under a body that can even challenge government on their rights, on what they deserve as a industry. There's a danger when government start putting money in funds. The moment money goes into funds, there's a problem of accountability. And that's the only way government now can start distributing or making money now, or resources now come to the creatives. Because mmeshindwa kuungana, let us create a hela fund, alafu we will start distributing. That money will go to per diems, that money will go to people going to capacity build people who are in Kisumu. That money will itafyonzwa yote. And that will not create tangible change to any person. So there's that need of understanding how registration works, understanding how legality and formality works as a creative. Now this is me speaking about creatives as a business. Now maybe I'll take now back to how the value system works. You had mentioned about the production. Sometimes productions can really even shoot. Productions are very, very expensive. Productions is one of the most scary part in any bill in terms of creativity, because that's where everything is thrown. That's where you invest everything. That's where anything can go wrong. Because you might have an idea on script, on paper, but when it comes to production, kunyeshe.
You're right. Production is...
You are not accounted for that. So that's something that it's very wild, and sometimes we usually even go ahead to have an extra cost to it. You don't really tell the client directly, but you just foresee some things that maybe as a production you have experienced previously, and you have to put that as cushion money, as cushion expenses, cushion expenditure as a creative. Now this will still bring me back to where I started saying that as a creative you need a team. Walking alone can take you far, but not really, really far. We have seen creatives who can do it, but to get the bigger checks, you must have a team, because the team will always give you an extra eye or an angle that you have never seen. A team will always make sure that you are accomplishing tasks and items that you don't really need to put your hands into. Team will always protect you from external forces. With all creatives that I've worked with, especially from a management level, I try as much as possible to tell them, you create. Mambo hesabu will put a retainer accountant there to do the maths for you. Mambo ya pitching, that's why the management is there. We'll go knock the boardrooms for you. When only the client needs you just to see the physical face is when we'll tell you to show up. But when it comes to bargaining, to make sure that the value is understood on the table, I don't like creatives sitting on that table. They'll end up messing up.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah. So as much as possible, any creative who is outside there, I usually try and tell them, step aside. Let the management, if you have a management that cannot handle such conversations for you, drop it as soon as yesterday. Because your work is to create. You are a creator. Hizo shida zinafaa ziletwe kwako na manager. Manager is one will come to you and tell you, now here we cannot spend this much. This is the amount of money we could only squeeze from the client. So you need to step down on this script, or maybe we need to turn down this business. We cannot pick it. Or maybe we need to pick this up, but we know it's a bit strenuous, but that this is how we need to move. Then you can argue with the manager at that point. But never let yourself argue with the client directly. Let the client view you as a creative, not as a person who's on the table speaking business. It's very, very important.
Psychologically pia saizi ndo naanza ku my fucking days.
If you are the face of
no wonder this guy is so good. Yeah, ashaji distribute team yake na ako sawa.
Yes, you have everybody for everything. Now your work is to make sure you create.
As long as tumelewana as a team, this is our direction.
This is our direction.
That's very genius.
It's not easy because sometimes the creatives tend to feel too insecure. I think I can tell this, but it's not at your point to do that. Your work speaks for itself.
But insecurity nacheza part.
Not really.
Okay.
Not really, because if you do things the right way, if you have contracts everywhere, if you have a responsible team, then insecurity should not be the problem. The problem should be value. If you find insecurity, kill it as early as yesterday. Let it go. If you don't trust anybody, let them go. Let the problem on the table be value. With me, that is how I operate. If I'm not creating value, that's my biggest problem. The rest of the other things will come in, will check, because if the client can see the value, then that it's something that can be reimbursed. That is something that can be procured. And that is something that can be referred. Referral is created through value. But if you don't have value, then that means that you need to work hard.
Do you think bado ikikam kwa creatives, bado hatujafika hile level ya kumanage social media vile professional creatives, in the sense that yes, here's what I mean. One thing nimekuwa nikiambia Dante hapa, in my own opinion, I feel cross-posting is lazy work. In this sense, yeah? As a creative, uko na 100K on each platform. Uko na 100K on Instagram, 100K on X, and 100K on TikTok, right? But ile content utapost hapa, utaenda cross-post kila place. Or you could choose hii content ya TikTok, it's just limited to this. Hii content ya Instagram, it's limited to this. Na hii content ya X, it's limited to this. In the sense that if a brand comes through, naambia okay, fine, this is my rate card according to all these 3 platforms, because all those 3 platforms iko na different analytics and engagement level. Am I being too harsh for saying that?
Yeah, you're being too harsh, because cross-posting is one of the best way to retain value. First of all, I think I'll have to step back kidogo before I go to cross-posting. I think there's something you have mentioned, and how can I relate it? Let me move just to cross-posting, because that is the easiest way to discuss about it. Cross-posting, vile tumesema, analytics differ from different platforms. You cannot, let's say for example, for me, I can't even stay about a week without even accessing TikTok. Best reason known to me, because when I access TikTok, I lose time, I lose focus completely. But maybe I prefer Twitter. That does not mean I'm not on TikTok. That does not mean I'm not on Instagram. Now you see, if you as a creator don't cross-post, let's say your content really hits on TikTok, and me, I'm still your follower on X on the other end, that means that is value that the client has not really attracted. So for me, cross-posting, I say it's a digital game. It's a digital game. You must know how to play it as best as you know.
Check this out. Unacheki vile kuna content ya Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Iko limited to Hulu. But there's others that are limited to Netflix.
Yeah.
Una get the game?
That's very different.
No, I understand.
That's proprietary content.
Okay, but I'm just following the same model in the sense that Kevin Hart understands that amepatia a different rate card yenye Hulu amekam through nayo. Una get, ndo kwa maana akaeka.
Is it the same show?
No, definitely show. That's why I'm saying, that's why cross-posting kama ita work in this more. I mean, if you're working with this model in the sense that content ya TikTok inabaki limited to that. Let's just talk in my view. Wacha nikupatie tu game plan yangu. When I'm talking about TikTok, me wongia I release I guess a minute to 2 minutes short videos niki explain conspiracy na nini. The basic arcing theme of what I talk about in my podcast na nini, ikwe creatives, ikwe business, I talk about everything, but I limit it to 2 minutes. The reasons watu wamenitishata YouTube on my TikTok account, I'm like, there's a different content for YouTube in the sense that he podcast nataka kuiweka fully on YouTube. Si cross post. You get
exclusivity.
Exclusivity, yes, in the sense that, okay, so let me just land my point. When it comes to X is just my personal thoughts written down. Hii si kitu ya kuwatch ama kitu ya kukam, but when it comes to now Instagram, this is photographic content. In a way, maybe inawezeka like 5 images that would tell a story. You see? So with all those 3 different platforms, ndio kuna mtu ataniona on Instagram atafikiria, okay, Naza ameweka his other platforms here, what is he doing on other platforms? You might even force people who are not on TikTok to get on TikTok. Ndo wako curious about you in the sense that ndio unaweza kakuwa na 100k on all these different platforms, but the difference is wewe unaweza ongelesha the brands waambie cheki, this is my rate card, but that's just for Instagram. Ukitaka ni ku-advertise nini, hii crowd ni different because intellect yao is different from
very,
this.
Very demographic is very different.
Demographic, exactly. Because TikTok, kuna watu wanaweza kaka YouTube watch maybe an hour, even 2 hours podcast. But kuna wengine TikTok, they like summarizing. Now am I making sense from that angle?
You're making sense. One thing I can say about the digital game, there is no template. Everybody has a different settings on how it works for them. There are people who they are, let's say, like I'll give a very good example of Kenyan. Kenya's content can cut across. So when he posts on Twitter, still relates to Twitter, still relates to TikTok, still relates to on Instagram. Luckily. There are other content structures, especially podcasters, you cannot cross-platform post, not unless you're doing snippets. Even snippets sometimes fail completely, terribly. This thing doesn't have a template to do. It's you understanding your demographics and what, even the literacy level, like you have to tweak it to how your audience relates to your content. There's no template of cross posting and everything and how you relate to it. It's how your audience takes it. We have seen, okay, it depends with how maybe you you have to try sample, nini, try sample. But at some point, even you have to understand that this content cannot be understood from X. Maybe it's too DJCT, so it has to stay in TikTok. The other thing,
and also,
I think I'll have to this I'll have to throw to you. You release content. There's a content you had released about finance bill.
Ilikufikia?
How did I know?
Jeez, okay.
I want you to guess, how did I get your content? A very good explainer. You did a very good explainer. Top notch. Where did you post it?
On TikTok.
TikTok. Did you post it on X?
No.
Did you post it on Instagram?
No.
I got it on WhatsApp.
Jeez. Dante, nilikuambia nini hiyo video imerekodiwa imeshariwa mara ngapi? Was it like 800 because I could tell the analytics? But go on.
How can you say about that? I got it in a group.
Okay.
I'll mention this group. It's called Creative Economy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Creative Economy Council. A group that we are there, Ted, Frasha, everybody's there. In fact, it was shared by someone very, very out of even of your audience structure.
God damn it, bro. Jeez. To be honest, okay, vile umesema tu haina template.
A very good explainer video that you did. But you did not. I went even to your stories and checked whether you posted on your stories. You did not post on your stories.
Actually, one thing about my WhatsApp contacts, I usually say saa zingine when I started doing TikTok, I didn't want to even tell my friends I'm doing it because saa zingine hawezi pata good stats from your friends. Friends wako wanaweza kukudanganya to protect.
Yeah, very true.
You understand?
Yeah.
The other thing is there are other people watakuja na so many corrections to a point that hautajua.
Yes.
So the perfect way ni kupackage a product na kuipeleka out to the audience, see what the audience will tell you.
In fact, you have never even told me the name of your podcast.
No, I haven't.
But I came here knowing the name of your podcast.
Okay.
In fact, I interacted with this logo before even that video.
Okay.
About a week ago. I don't know whether it's a biker who had the sticker on their bike.
No way.
This time I saw this logo. Or this time I saw it. And not from you. I was in a garage somewhere. Have you shared this sticker with someone?
Yeah, people? Yeah. This was a whole community. Na mimi personally, again, just branding. I understand branding. So there's even vile nimeplace logo yaangalia camera. Isikwe too upfront and stuff. So it's I told you more of a psychological game.
So when I just linked that logo with that video, I don't even see your face on that explainer. Is when I click tap. As I'm like, this game doesn't have a formula. This game you just have to try and try wherever your luck comes in. There are people even it takes 10 years. There are people it takes 5 years. There are people it takes even 2 weeks. People even 2 days. It hits the street.
Now speaking of that content, kuna kitu nataka kuambia. Because again, vile nimekuwa tu in the back end nikijaribu kuandika scripts and stuff. I realized most creatives hawajuangi and the only reason I started that TikTok was because I was provoked. Let me nikwambie tu a quick story. There's a friend of mine nilikuwa namwambia, bro, I think unafaa kutengeneza content hivi in a way that weke cutscenes. Have you seen how those cutscenes are? In a way that weke cutscenes and you have to put these cutscenes from even different people ukionyesha references. And I continued and he was like, Nasir, to be honest, your ideas are good. Saa zingine mimi sikuelewangi, but why don't you just try them? And then nikienda home, kuna boys wangu anaitwa Rooney. Is a partner of mine kwa hii studio yote. Alikuwa amenipatia kamera yake, nimekaa over here bila kuitumia. I was just like looking at the specs. So niko na ndio kamera. I have lapel mics, good lapel mics. Haiko ambaye it was Boya, the brand.
Yeah.
And niko na PC hapa. Went to Allison, learn how to edit. Nikaanza tu production. My first video, ende uangalie how my first video was. And then pole tu nikaanza, niko na tu yo OCD ya perfection. I started doing, making one video for like 7 hours. The more I continued, I cut time. Mpaka saizi vile tuko in a team, like one script ndo itanitake a long time kuiandika and how to formulate everything. Because hata nikiandika hiyo script, always I'm looking for the audience ibaki hapo. Because yuko na ile retention time unaangalia kwa analytics. I look at that and I'm like, every time ikikuwa below 5% it gets to me. I'm like, where did these guys drop off? Okay, at this minute I'm that after hooks ya kuziweka hapo and I'm going to always try new things. Kweka audience yani, and there's also, it comes also with the matter of language.
Yeah.
When I started, watu walikuwa nasema, why don't you just shift to English? Na nikasema no. The way I speak English, watu watadhani nimetoka Westia ama you understand?
Babin, yeah.
So as in I just like talking vile mi uongea. I mix freestyle, English na mix Sheng, unaget, and napendanga kuja tu na this unorthodox character. This is Nas, hundo Nas vile utampata tuko streets everywhere. You see? And I guess hiyo ndo ili strike a chord with the audience, the fact that Ujama is speaking our language, and I'm actually really trying to break, yani niifanye kwe simpler for them to understand, even giving them analogies. So by the mere fact that wewe Sanday umekama hapa, hata sikuwa wamekuambia umekama hapa na ukavalidate your point, bro, to be honest, as in, I don't know, it's another feeling of the fact that hii kitu imework the way nilikuwa nimeichora chini.
Yeah. I think the digital game, what I don't like doing about advising about digital game is putting, as I said, I don't like putting things in boxes, because digital game is aimed for creators. it's aimed for creative. That's why creatives are really excelling on the digital space. So the moment I start putting you in a box on how I think, how things should be running, it stifles how more ideas and how diverse you can attract, or even something new you can invent within that same route. So I've worked in a digital company for about 6 months, and that is one of the things that I noted. I learned about the trends, the analytics, how to watch analytics, how to watch audiences. Sometimes you have very bad days, you have very good stories, but the days just turn out to be very bad. Numbers dip completely. That is that you have very, very weak stories, but now those that you think that they're weak is when you hit the best numbers. And then you're wondering what's happening. And then I just came to understand that this thing does not have a template. It's just you to create a very good standard operating procedures that you can optimally operate within that environment and leave the biggest space to create. Still takes you back to Kenyan nilikuwa nakwambia. I like my creators not handling the back end. Creators should be on the forefront to change the game completely. That is how TikTok grew and overcame all the other digital platforms, because they let creators define the platform. Decide from going live, they said, now can you introduce a monetary feature in this thing? They increase the monetary feature. Can you do this? Can we now put people together now? They start fighting
sijaweza kujua how that thing works till today.
Like it's user, it's user generated interface. Yeah, it's more to the creators than the business itself. So the business itself, they just take the back seat and make sure that the creators enjoy this platform as much as they can. And from there, it surpassed all digital platforms. But the ones who kept left their platforms to a point that now you cannot do anything. You can see the trajectory they were facing. At some point, Instagram was now almost becoming not even an app to go to, because it was so locked. You cannot even put GIFs. You cannot even put anything. You cannot even on the stories. You just because it's not paying attention to the creators. It's not creating a playground for creators to expand on features and everything. So I think that's a very, very good angle to always leave creators to take the lead, because they're the ones who now make the platform interesting. They make the content interesting, retaining, and all, even analytics, because analytics always depends on whatever is in front of the screen. Yeah.
Who shared the video?
The video?
Anaitwa
nani? I think she's called Prophetess Leah or something. I'm telling you, it's out way from you, even your audience. She's such another lady who was just an artist from back then, and
okay. As in,
I just bumped into a video, just like, no way.
As in,
and I was just like, this is it. And you invited me. I told myself I'll not tell you. I'll just tell you in the podcast.
Wallahi bro, una reaction yangu saizi.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking days, bro. Says amini, but
immediately I went to your stories. To your WhatsApp stories. Very fast. This guy has not posted this thing in his stories. I was like, okay, I won't tell him, because maybe that's how he's playing it around. Maybe that's how you have noted you have structured your audiences. But
in fact, as in there's a relative mwenye sijamongelesha, I guess ako UK. Alinitext akaniambia they have seen what you're doing on TikTok.
The video.
No, it's not even this one. This one I did for astral projection. Hiyo ndio ilikuwa one of the first one ilienda viral. So aliniambia tu, I've seen what you're talking about na nini, and yeah, as in it was all congratulations. Mpaka akasema, why don't you do it in English ndo sound. So I was like okay fine. Nilimsikia nikasema tu sawa, because there are some conversations always kakuwa na watu wengine, because they really don't understand the know-how of media. So I was like, oh, thank you, as in haina shida, I'm going to try and make improvements, but story catch up.
I think that should be always advised by even your trajectory. What's your goal? If you have a defined goal in terms of where you're moving, you can understand them better on what they're requesting. because maybe there's something they're communicating to you, and maybe it might be maybe part of your journey. I'll give an example of one of my talents, Kena. When Kena started at a bedsitter level. That is when he was JQuat, doing that bedsitter content, which was very viral and very rich in terms of its content structure and how it appealed to the audiences. Relatability. But now, the content started crossing borders because most of the content he didn't use to speak. At some point, he was just Mr. Beanish because he doesn't have a language. And now, his content structure started now reaching to Nigerians. Saying Don Jazzy, commenting, laughing, and reposting. And now even doing a content for Don Jazzy, and Don Jazzy is even posting on his own platform. And you're like, this is now a new market niche that we need to attract. Because now, Nigeria, when Don Jazzy just propelled that content in Nigeria, Nigerians started following him immediately. Are you going to throw away that audience by speaking Swahili?
No, you're not.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do as a reaction to it?
Okay, to be honest, you're going to try and accommodate them. And that's why he went silent.
It's an audience. Now, something happened within that shift. People, I think you noted at that point, there's some silence that came in, but that silence now started shifting into Tattoo City content. A more refined content, even the background, now from the bedsitter into someone who has grown into life, now has a tie, now you created a new character.
God damn it. Umenotice hiyo kitu Dante? Umenotice? No, umenotice hiyo shift ya crazy Kena. Okay, I noticed something like that, but
it's something we have to sit down and craft because it's a goal.
Jeez.
We set our goal so high to a point that this is just one of the milestones that we want. Like it just created a milestone on how we want things to move. Even creating a content structure that magnets Don Jazzy, it's very, very intentional.
Jeez. That's genius.
From there is when you can move. Kidogo now start having subtitles. You don't shift from Swahili very fast, so that you don't lose the audience that you're still retaining. And then from the Swahili now we move into English. Now on the subtitles. Because now Nigerians are watching. Because we watched what Sydney Talker was doing. And how Sydney Talker became the biggest viner in Nigeria. Even the type of setting. If you check Tattoo City, it looks exactly like how Sydney Talker's estate looks like.
Jeez.
It was so intentional.
God damn it. That's genius. But however, when it came to the languages, there was a time nimechukua break. Then nikarudi
in English
with the subtitles. You may notice there was a point when I started, there was no subtitles. It was just, and then the only reason I put subtitles, I'm going to be honest, it was not to accommodate other people. I put subtitles hapo kuweka watu hapo because there's a way people tend to read subtitles. Hata kwa movies. Unaona there's a way concentration yako iko hapo if you ukiread subtitles. That was in fact right now ndo umefanya nikuje kurealize that the fact that unaweza kakua appealing to other people.
This is what I can put an advice to your content structure. The reason why we even included subtitles it's because we find people going into offices and they want a breather. People are depressed. People have so much going in their lives. People even have it in space. They're even in church and they just want to scroll. People are in space that they're not supposed to scroll, but they're just find themselves clicking on Instagram and looking for something to just as a breather. And as a breather, we cannot put you want to see what he's saying, you want to listen to what he's saying without sound. How do you achieve that? You have to put subtitles. Because there's someone who wants to listen to you, but they just want to watch.
Oh, I gotcha.
This one guy there's a guy called Esther Richie. I know that you know him.
The guy with the cleaning the airwaves,
yeah, CTA.
Okay.
Richie taught me a lot about digital. I really thank him so much. Richie I told him, I have this content creator who is really, really coming up very fast. He'll be the biggest content creator. And best believe, I'm telling you about Kena. You guys, you're not even recognizing him as one of the most influential person in this country. But you guys, this guy is going everywhere. And then Richie just took me up. Like, we used to challenge each other in terms of how content creation is moving. So for me, it's to enlighten him on what the younger generation is paying interest to. For him, is to teach me the analytics, the back-end part of how content looks like. Because if Richie releases a CTA, trust me, it's digital release. It's not a social media release. There's a difference.
Okay.
Do you understand a digital release and social media release?
No, I do not.
Digital release means that social media release, let's start with that. It means that you're putting it on social media platforms. Digital release, you're putting it in websites that you can monetize, that is beyond the reach.
Gotcha.
This is what Richie did to the content I gave him for Kena. He watched Kena. He watched that content once, watched it twice. That time he put the phone on the table and looked at me while the content is playing. Do you know what I learned from that sitting? That if this content, I can look at it, I can look at the subtitle, I can put it down and listen to it and laugh. This is a multimedia platform content. That means by that, I'm just looking at avenues of how I can monetize that platform. So if I meet you today and you're doing a podcast and you're not on Spotify, I'm just looking at you. I'm just like, do you know Spotify has podcasts right now?
Yeah.
I don't think whether they have started revenue, but monetization will kick in. There are more than 50 platforms outside there that people log in every day to listen to podcasts. There are people who are driving, they cannot watch. What are you giving them?
God damn it, bro. God damn it, bro. Esther. God damn it, bro. Jeez. That's another way of looking
That's
at it.
why if someone is communicating something to you, you have to listen and listen keenly. Because that's something that maybe it's a niche thing, but that niche will stick with you because they can sit in the office and look at your content with their volume at 0, but read subtitles of what you're saying and say this guy's making sense.
So wale watu watai kusikia wanaweza ona.
Yes.
Wale watu hawezi ona wanaweza sikia.
That's I'm calling you. There's a difference between social media and digital.
Digital release.
Digital release means you're going full.
And also hapo digital release is where monetization will happen.
I was watching, I'm just with Richie them. Richie saying, hey, look, now I'm posting to this platform, people pay here with Bitcoin. I'm just like, what the heck? Yani at this age and era, you're...
Because, okay, the good thing is when it came to monetization, hiyo digital release, wendo umeniambia hiyo jina saizi, but I think I figured it out like, I guess 2018 ilikuwa nimefigure out that inshallah kutakuwa na platform yenye itakuja ipate ma content create 2018 bro nikiwa uni.
Yes.
So when I started drawing up that plan, yeah, website 2018, 2019, then 2020, nakumbuka I made the prototype with 100k.
Yeah.
Nikijua I'm not going to be the creator. Mimi nilikuwa naambia wase because what inspired the idea was the fact that I had creatives around me, musicians, comedians, kila mtu anaenda hapa wanakuja na their heartbreak stories of what a celebrity aliwaambia na nini. Nikaambia cheki, what if ilianza tu hivyo, what if we start like a website that iteka vitu tu hapo and then we can monetize it. Yeah. Tunaweza anza tu na like 20 people ama 30 people.
Yeah.
Just an organic. To them haiko ina make sense at first. And then I kept the idea to myself. Na nikasema okay fine. Wachana na watu, can we make, as in I'm sure there are a lot of creatives on a suffer kama hao.
Yeah.
They could get even at least 100 people.
Yeah.
Because unakumbuka it was 2018, 2019, I guess hiyo ndo time ya genge tondo ilikuwa imeanza kukama up.
Yeah.
So hawa watu was in unknown people walikuwa nafikisha mita on YouTube.
Very fast, yeah.
Very fast. So I was like, these people, and what I came to discover is hawa watu walikuwa na share links sana.
Yeah.
Ndo ikafika hapo. And I was like, okay fine, if they could share links, they could easily get 100 people to pay them at least 20 bob. You get?
Yeah.
In a day kama unachikia 100 people have either watched you live ama wamewatch content yako
Yeah.
na wamelipia do, that's like organic reach, because me I'm trying to like cut the middleman out in all of this.
Yeah.
Kila mtu anania, and front it actually just takes a 20% cut.
Yeah.
Now speaking of monetization, Snoop Dogg alisema Spotify, he averaged 1 billion streams on Spotify and got $40,000 for it. Now do you understand? Vile anasema zen he alikuwa anaiweka ama he was insinuating that he was ripped off, because that's a rip off. 1 billion streams, bro.
I think also I can't blame Spotify. There's 2 ways to look at it. You can look at it as Snoop Dogg losing, and you can look at it as an opportunity. For me, I like if I see something that if something is wrong somewhere, I see it as an opportunity. Vile mmesema parliament ilivunjwa vio, me I see it as an opportunity to go there and say mi naweza tengeneza kio. Umevunja gate,
na hata reject your bill utawapatia.
So me I look things in a different perspective, and this is how even the market is moving. I'll give you a very good example of Travis Scott. It's a very good study case, in fact, of how music releases are happening. There's a point that music releases became a bit inferior because they're not earning money because of piracy, all this stuff, and there's a lot of things happening within the digital space that they are not selling music that it's supposed to be sold. So what did they do? They added a bundle, something called a bundle. What does the bundle contain? It's a t-shirt. It's making sure that the audience is attracted to the product.
Wanaka incentives.
But that's why I told you, there's 2 ways of looking at it. Is you looking at the platform as an aggressor or looking at the platform as an opportunity? For me, I tend to look the platform as an opportunity. It's either use the platform to grow because it's numbers, you're cultivating, it's giving you an avenue to, it's like you renting out Uhuru Park for an activity. Did you pay the county government? Yes. You pay the county. It's up to you to know how these people will come to this spot, come, enjoy your facility, and then you benefit from the people that are going to come from the platform itself. So if Snoop Dogg had the ability to push 1 billion streams, what avenues did he create for conversion? Snoop Dogg is selling hemp items. That is what he's not telling you.
Oh, okay.
if maybe I think her it's more of a talent. She has a very deep talent that you said about covering context. I don't know how she does it, but ni mtu unaweza mweka tu hapa nga. In less than 30 minutes that interview can capture whatever the audience needs to understand. So I think her research abilities are so deep, and she's very well connected with the audiences, that she knows what her audiences obeys to. And that's one very golden thing, that as a creative you can really win for. You don't even, for her, she doesn't even want to go to analytics. She doesn't even need to go to analytics. She knows how to tap the context of the audience without even going to analytics. That's golden, because so many people who are in front of cameras have to be guided that your audience has this and this. For her, she's so much in touch with the audience, and her journey is now picking up really well. And I'm really yet to see what it needs to translate to, because the next level for her, she has very big plans. She has very big ideas to implement, and maybe that is what will give you context of what she's all about. There's a lot of things that happened previously for a brand, but I don't think that was a reason to kill a name that has really cemented itself over a period of time. And with her even coming out and saying, now I have to come back to the media, because it's a very wild world. For me, I see this world in two different ways. I see it in how you see it in physical format, and I see it in a spiritual format. And if you're not spiritually keen in a creative space, especially being at such a level, you might tend to lose a lot, and you might get lost. That's why you see a lot of talent. The first conversation we had with you is about talents, how talents get lost. Mtu anaanza kuchangiwa, mwingine ameanza kwenda nini. It still trickles down to a spiritual perspective, and there's so much that runs spiritually in these audiences, and in this space that we call it creative space, that requires a lot of better spiritual grounding. I have noted that with also even having Kenyan for the longest time, because from him, if you check his background is very strong spiritually, and that thing grounds you a lot. So many things, so many altars you meet as you progress up the ladder, and they are there to make sure that you bow to them, either you obey them, or even they drag you down, or even they topple you out, because you're not giving the sacrifice to what they want. And once you understand that spiritual context, you start getting spiritual wokeness. It will tend to bring that soberness when you try to interact with people, with things, with even celebrities themselves. You have had situations that someone greets someone and they're gone. Like it's like some sort of astral projecting, or even living, your spirit living.
Yeah.
And this person becomes a different person completely. Mm-hmm. Someone who's not using drugs or not consuming anything, like they just had a handshake with someone, either a politician, or even, now this is another thing that even happens, and I think that conversation I have with a couple of friends of mine, that we have seen even a trend of politicians coming to getting intimate with creatives, especially women. And once they get intimate with these creatives, the creatives start dwindling, and they retract. Even that tutaita nyota inapotea, and this politician jumps back to
another one.
Yeah, and not even another one, like their political values start increasing at the same point. Mm-hmm. This thing is spiritually connected. If you pay very keen attention to it, it's spiritually connected. Creatives, especially women, tend to deteriorate completely, because safeguarding their space becomes very hard. So that's a conversation for another day, because it's a bit technical.
Anyway, bro, thank you for coming. Wacha tunaacha conversation on that high note. Thank you for coming, and it's been a blessing, bro. Shukran.
Karibu. Yes.